Welcome to Glenda Blasts Your Ear Off, flash fiction stories written by Josh Bush and narrated by Glenda Villamar. Enjoy! Episode 21, Just Like. Razia had been coming to the county unemployment office for 3 weeks in a row. By now, she knew what to expect. So Razia wore comfortable shoes, had a book, her license, the letter from her former employer detailing her layoff, and printouts of the jobs she'd applied to earlier in the week. The types of people in front of her in line had been different each week. The first week had been a man in his 30s whose company had gone bankrupt. The second week, it had been a woman in her 50s who said her company fired her so they could replace her with a college graduate they could pay less. And this week, in front of her in line, was a robot. The robot stood on 2 legs, just like a human, and it had 2 arms and a head, just like a human. It was silver, 6 foot tall, and it was dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, swim trunks, flip-flops, and a baseball hat. The robot turned around and asked Razia,
"Wow, this is a long line. Any idea how long this'll take?"
Razia looked into the robot's very human-looking eyes and answered, "Maybe a half hour? Hard to tell." He sighed.
Aw, man. 30 minutes?
Razia commiserated. "I know. It's hard to wait. But I hear you can also apply for unemployment benefits online," the robot said.
Oh, really? Well, I'd rather come in, to be honest. With not working anymore, it's nice to get some human contact, you know?
Razia felt that pull herself. She never realized how much she'd relied on her former company for socialization. These 3 weeks, she'd been lonely. Razia found herself going to stores just to have conversations, albeit short ones, with another human. Razia decided not to ask this robot why he needed human contact. He asked,
"So why are you here?"
Razia, who had been holding her book open with her hand, took out her bookmark, inserted the bookmark, and put the book into her purse. "A month ago, my job was downsized." The robot scoffed.
"That's a bummer. Let me guess. They moved your job overseas?"
"Exactly. How about you?" He answered.
"I quit my job thinking I'd landed a job that was in my field. But the job didn't work out. I mean, my job before was kind of in my field. I'm a writer, see? I was working at a restaurant and they let me write the menu. The menu changed every day, but that's not really being a writer, you know? Now the job I think I was going to get was being a writer on a sitcom, but the network decided not to do the show after all."
Razia thought talking to this robot was definitely more interesting than the book she'd been reading. "You must be heartbroken." The robot, sounding melancholy.
"You know, I am. I'm so sad. I just lay in bed all day. All I do is sleep."
Razia admitted, "Me too." He went,
"I barely even eat. Some days I go days without eating."
Razia wanted to ask him if robots even needed sleep or food. The question seemed rude, though. The robot must have been programmed to think it was human. How odd. The robot went on.
"I don't like not working. I don't have any savings. I don't know how I'm going to pay next month's rent if I can't get unemployment benefits today."
Razia replied, "I know the feeling." And she didn't ask why it mattered to a robot if he lived inside or outside. Couldn't he just stay outside like any other machine? Like a car or a lawnmower? The robot continued.
"And the timing couldn't be worse. The missus and I are trying for a baby. Without me having a job, we don't have any health insurance. And you know how the doctors want you to have all those well-baby checkup visits to make sure the baby's doing okay."
Razia internally scratched her head. She didn't know a lot about robots, but she knew they didn't have sex to reproduce. Robots were made in factories. Razia tried to ask in the nicest way possible, "You do know that you're a robot and not a human, right?" The robot put his hand on his hip.
"Dude, not cool. Yes, I know I'm a robot. I'm programmed to think I'm a human. But truth be told, I often forget that I'm a robot. Months can go by. I feel human."
"Okay, well, what do you think's going to happen when it's your turn at the counter? Do you think they're going to give unemployment benefits to a robot?" The robot said sadly,
No, probably not.
He paused and said,
What would you have me do?
Razia pursed her lips. I don't know. On the way here, I saw a grocery store that had a sign out advertising they were hiring for cashiers. The robot bristled.
I want a job in my field. I don't want to settle for anything else.
Razia said, They really did program you to think you're a human. It's just pride, honey. Any job is better than no job. Who cares if it's not in your field? The robot said,
Maybe you're right.
And he stared off into space. Razia didn't know what else to say, so she didn't say anything at all. And she didn't have to, because the robot got out of line and walked out the door. Razia stared after him and watched as he walked forlornly down the street with his head drooping down. Razia was about to take out her book and start reading, but didn't. Instead, she too got out of line and walked out the door. She was going to take her own advice and settle for a job that wasn't in her field. She was going to go to that grocery store and apply to be a cashier. Razia just hoped that the robot wouldn't apply as well and get the job. The end. Thank you for listening to today's episode. We look forward to bringing you the next episode in Glenda Blasts Your Ear Off. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Glenda Blasts Your Ear Off. You have 1,440 minutes in a day. Use 5 of those minutes and visit freerice.com to play trivia games and help end world hunger. freerice.com. If you would like to donate to help support the podcast, you can donate at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com. And you can also buy our ebook anthology, compiling the stories from our first 10 episodes. You can find our book on lulu.com.